All right.
If the road were easy, everyone would take it. We don't shy away from challenges. We dive in. And now, live from an undisclosed location in FEMA Region 10, it's your host, Joshua Michael.
All right, welcome, folks, to this Sunday special broadcast. I'm your host, Joshua Michael. Hope you guys had a good 4th of July weekend. It is hotter than balls out there, and I've been melting every time I go out there, but we're in it. We're glad we got rid of the rain and glad we got rid of the things, but don't want to talk about the weather today. I want to talk about what's going on in the world, what's transpiring. I want to talk about, the thing with Biden and what all that signifies in the controlled demolition of the Democratic Party, and what they're going to do and the moves that they're going to be making in the next couple of weeks, because we're going to be seeing a massive overturning of the chessboard, because they're losing politically, they're losing culturally, and everything else. And the counterculture and the revolutionary mindset of the founding fathers of this country is now coming back to fruition, where people are putting it in their forefront. They're now getting engaged. They're getting involved. They're realizing you can't just sit online and talk about it. You can't get on social media and talk about it. You got to be about it. And so start parallel constructing and disconnecting from these systems is the key to this revolution that we're in. And granted, it's beyond a revolution. We are in a war. We are drastically in the Third World War or Fourth World War, however you want to call it. And it's well underway, and every single one of you is an active participant. But one of the best warriors, I believe, for the state of Oregon, fighting these tyrants, fighting these systems, exposing things, getting out in the forefront, is my good friend Rob Taylor. And I've been on his show a couple times, and I needed to bring him on to my show so we can talk about it and we can, have these nice conversations of how do we fight this thing and what's going on in the world. Rob, how are you today? Thanks for joining me.
I'm doing great, Josh, and thanks for having me. This is it's an honor. It's an honor to be speaking to the people of Salem and the surrounding area there. And I think you do a kick-ass job of doing what you do.
Thanks, buddy. Well, it's great. It's great to have you on the radio again. I know you're doing podcasting and everything else, but it's been a few months since you've been on the radio. So welcome back. They can't censor you.
No, they can't censor me. And I'll tell you what, I just found out yesterday, because I was at a party where I had several of my sponsors that I haven't talked to in a while, because, they haven't been sponsoring me because they were sponsors through the radio station. And I guess several of them have left the radio station, partly because I was canceled, and they didn't like the fact that they were practicing censorship. And so it was nice to hear that. They were all complaining about the quality of service they were getting, and they decided that they just weren't going to partake in their services. So it was kind of interesting. And I'm not a boycott guy. I told my sponsors, don't boycott anyone. I mean, that's a decision that every individual business owner has to make. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, but it goes back to kind of the world that we're in regards to having values within companies. And if a company doesn't meet your value, you can pay with your dollar. And I don't believe in censorship. I don't think it was the right move. I think it was very cowardly. And, they should have rode the storm with you, considering how long you'd been there, how much revenue you bring, and how much awareness and contribution you're doing to the community. They should have been able to see bigger and seen the bigger picture beyond their pocketbooks or whatever flack that they're going to be getting from having real conversations that were already being had, and conversations that I see as being a giant victory in your battle against DBS, and just exposing his cronies and his infrastructure and a lot of the things that they are doing. You single-handedly did a fantastic job on bringing that to the forefront. So obviously what you were saying, they were scared of, so much so that they had to censor you. It was absolutely ridiculous, but you're moving on. You're doing bigger and better things, building your podcast. And, I follow you and we watch all the things that you're doing and all the interesting stuff going on. It's really important. So right now this week, it's the 7th of July, a couple days after the 4th of July. We're less than 122 days or something until the big election coming up. What's on your radar right now? What do you want to talk about today? Is there anything in Oregon that people should be aware of? I know you mentioned something about the Supreme Court ruling that just happened. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, there is one specific Supreme Court ruling, because there's been a lot of really good rulings come out. I mean, there have been the Chevron deference decision.
Oh yeah, that's
where and I don't know if you remember this. It was something in 1984. I was 18. I was getting involved with politics. I was very anti-government. I mean, I was the generation before me had just fought Vietnam. We went through the Nixon presidency. And so the distrust for government was high, and especially in 1984 when George Orwell predicted, a lot of the stuff that's going on today in a book named after that year, 1984.
Yep.
But during that year, they came up with the Chevron deference decision where they allowed the legislature to acquiesce their authority to federal bureaucracies, creating a much larger deep state than we've ever had before. And how it affects Oregon, because they have just decided to change that law, is that in Oregon, there were several policies that have made big news because people were going against the leftist agenda. One of them was a lady who had a bakery. I forget where her bakery was, and I forget the name of the bakery, but I know the story where there was a gay couple who came in, asked her to bake a cake for their wedding, and she refused because she believed it went against her religious values, and I believe she had every right to refuse. Well, because of the administrative structure, she was fined, her business was fined for discrimination, and instead of being able to fight that in a court of law, it went to an administrative law judge. Now think about just the name of this person, the administrative law judge. The administration creates the rule, then an administrator inside the administration that created the rule adjudicates that same rule. So, it would be like my brother deciding what punishment I should get for a crime that I committed. And so when you have that type of nepotism happening in government, they're always going to support their own administration to validate the existence of the administration. So they fined this woman, I forget how much money it was, but I believe it put her out of business.
Yeah, it was over
because she didn't bake it.
Yeah,
it was
I got
over 100. Ridiculous.
I got it right now. It was sweet cakes, and I believe they were in Gresham when the couple came in there in 2013.
In 2013.
And attempted to purchase the cake. Yeah. And they said their Christian faith didn't allow them to support the same-sex wedding. So they weren't refusing I think they were just refusing the wedding cake, right? And they they had Christian morals, Christian values, and they said, no, we don't support that. We know it's the law, you guys can do it, but we just don't support it. And so this is going to do what? Is it I don't know what the term is, but is it effective now and beyond, or does it retroactively go back and allow an appeals process, say for this by Melissa, who was one of the...
It doesn't automatically it doesn't automatically become retroactive, meaning that they immediately will get a court case. She's going to have to file in court to have a review of that decision that was made by the administrative law judge, and ask if it can be brought to the courts where she can fight it in the courts. And then in that case, if you fight it in the courts and you lose, you can appeal. And eventually you can appeal to the Ninth Circuit Court, which would probably rule against her because we know the Ninth Circuit Court. But then it would go to the Supreme Court. And then the Supreme Court, who's usually finds on the side of religious freedom over someone's right to purchase a product.
Right.
And this is something that they've already decided in other cases, and I believe it gives her the opportunity for that appeal and to eventually get up to the point where she can actually get justice for what was a very unjust situation. It's like, I don't like discrimination, but I also don't like people being forced to provide services to anyone they do not like. I believe in the right to refuse service to anyone if you own a business.
And well, when we all see the signs, and there's always been an industry standard for, no shoes, no shirt, no service, right? Or we have the right to refuse service to anybody, despite your religious beliefs, despite anything. Somebody could come in and, you just say, hey, no, we're not going to serve you. And the market itself is then able to dictate if that was a good decision by, if social media gets out there, people start slandering a business and saying, hey, don't shop here. Those guys only serve these types of people. Well, that's okay. That's the business's choice. And I believe that the market should decide if that's an okay thing or not. It should not have any bureaucrats or any oversight. So this is a huge victory. This is something that we're going to see lots of victories, and I believe that there's going to be a bunch of court cases that are going to come out of the woodwork that are going to file for appeal now that this has been pushed through. And, we might see some of the unclenching of these administrative systems because, I know that Dennis Lithicum, he built this chart. I don't know if it's been updated recently, where he shows all the interconnected agencies. And these are agencies that are not voted in. They virtually have no oversight. And those are the companies or the organizations and the parts of the government that is actually really the problem. Let me give you an example. I think I talked about it like 6-8 months ago. But a friend of mine was trying to purchase a landfill. And I won't say where, I won't say anything, but basically the landfill had to meet some certain guidelines, right? And they found this piece of property. It's in the desert. It's in the middle of nowhere. There's nothing there. All they needed was power, and it was like 10 acres. 10 acres out of 100 that they purchased was going to be the impact zone. Well, this guy named Nigel, who works for the Department of Forestry or the Oregon Fish and Wildlife or whatever, came out there all the way to Eastern Oregon, and he's the only guy in his division, and he's the sage grouse preservation division thing, right? So
I know exactly what you're talking about. Okay. Yes, the sage grouse guy.
The sage grouse guy. So the sage grouse guy, granola eating, gets out of his Subaru, and he gets out there, and he looks at the thing, and he's like, yeah, okay, we'll get back to you. And then he leaves and he drives back to Portland, and then he comes back and he's like, okay, you guys can build your landfill, but the impact zone 50 miles from here for sage grouse, we want $35 million in order to do it. But now keep in mind, here's the catch. There's no sage grouse inhabitants in that area or even surrounding the area. They don't even exist, but they could potentially go there. And by that, they said the natural impact on the environment for doing the landfill, keep in mind the landfill is much needed, but we want $35 million. So somehow, some way, by you giving the bureaucracy $35 million, then it's like, okay, that's okay. Now everything's all good and happy love. It just doesn't make sense, but they were basically trying to strong arm them into not being able to build it. Now, it was a blessing in disguise in the sense, there's other properties that they were able to find where they were out of the grasp of that guy and everything else. But it's just a prime example, this guy, and there was no oversight, there was no appeal, there was no redress for grievance, there was no ability for these guys to go around him or continue the negotiations. That killed the entire deal. The entire project was only $15 million. It didn't make any sense. But just a prime example of these administrations overseeing it. We're seeing it everywhere, guys. We're seeing it everywhere with the Salem tax that they tried to pull and all the additional thing. They're getting ready to roll out some tolls in Oregon. I want to talk about that with Rob. You're listening to Joshua Michael, Non-Compliant America, and we'll be right back. It's entertainment, buddy. It's entertainment.
Yep, that's right.
We'll hit segment 2 here. All right, we are back. Joshua Michael, Non-Compliant America. Thank you very much. Make sure to like and subscribe. Follow me on X at Non-Compliant AF. It's at Non-Compliant AF on X, or you can go to noncompliantamerica.com. Download the podcast, share it with your friends, because we are in an information war. We are in a battle for the minds and a battle for the future. And within the future, there's a lot of things discussed. There's a lot of things being rolled out, new technologies, kind of trying to subvert the public. Essentially, we've overblown our threshold of what our minds are able to digest. And if you realize that, overly consumption of anything, you're going to get a surplus where you won't be able to handle everything being blown at you. So what's happening right now is massive information overload. And what we're trying to do is kind of sift through, dissect, find the nuggets and the diamonds in the rough to know what's actually happening, what's going on, what is moving forward, and what kind of moves are being made, why everybody's distracted and talking about these one things, what's going on behind the scenes. And I got the best reporter, talk show, radio host, Rob Taylor. Rob Taylor, how do people get a hold of you? How do they follow you? How do they catch your show? Where do they have to go right now?
You can go to robtaylorreport.com, and you can go to Rumble at Rob Taylor Report. You can go to YouTube at Rob Taylor Report, or I am on X at Rob Taylor Report. And it's, I've gotten banned. Well, not really banned, but they won't let me do a lot of things on Facebook. I was doing my podcast on Facebook, but I eventually got banned from that. And now last night, it was Friday night, we did a podcast, and they banned that particular podcast, that single show, on Friday night because someone had shown a gun, and it was a live stream. And according to the rules on YouTube, if you show a gun during a live stream, they'll cut you. AI caught it.
Wow. So that now they're doing AI encrypted video oversight. Just monitoring everything. That's fascinating. And that's the kind of stuff I'm actually really surprised. I'm still surprised that people are still on Facebook. It's almost it's almost like a bad boyfriend or a bad girlfriend.
Yep.
Like there's just this strange dopamine addiction. People are so scared of change. They've clung on to it. I think COVID. So I believe COVID was a triple whammy in regards to what kind of things and how it shifted our society. Not only was it tied to Agenda 2020 or Agenda 21, if you read the Earth Summit Agenda 21, written in 1992 or 3, I read that years prior to 2020, and I was like, how in the heck are they going to roll this first phase out? How are they going to move people from all of these routines and habits and all of that stuff? How are they going to do that? But now we know, they're going to create the scare, the bioweapon, everything else. But what that's done, and if you notice, what happened is the amount of people that clung onto their technology. I say it all the time. CNN was at like 9% approval rating in 2019. Suddenly, everybody ran back to CNN for information to find out what was going on in the pandemic. Everybody ran to it, even though Trump discredited them greatly. We saw all the shenanigans that they did and everything else. And I also want to talk about what you think of them turning on Biden. But in that page, it's very interesting. It forced everybody to get on technology. All these kids that probably played outside and didn't do much, or they might have played video games, whatever, suddenly now they're stuck in front of a computer all day which allows them to start wandering, getting on YouTube, everything else. These companies made billions of dollars on this shift. And so now everybody became interdependent on technology. Also, hey, we can't take cash. We can only take crypto, and we can only take, digital currencies, and we can only take, credit cards and different things like this because we want everything touchless. So now they were able to introduce the tap. Like, I know everybody had the tap, but right in the right time, everybody got these new tap cards probably a year or two prior to COVID. What a coincidence. They already had it done. I talk about it too.
Yeah.
Amazon Distribution Center in my area. This big giant warehouse. It got finished right before COVID. And guess what? Now they were competing with the USPS. Now they were on-time deliveries, doing all this in-home delivery. Just stay home. Just have Amazon deliver it. Now they got their whole network infrastructure embedded in right at the perfect time. It's not a coincidence. Understand, one, we all know that it was a plan. Absolutely, this is a plan. And I want to talk about the future plan, where the next phase is going to be, right? But I also want to talk about AI. So how AI is slowly integrating into these systems, kind of like the censorship thing. Now, what does that do? That's eliminating jobs, right? And just because AI isn't the all-seeing eye, we shouldn't give it so much credit and think that it's all powerful and it's all gloom and doom. The American mind and the American spirit and just the human spirit is so powerful. I'm seeing, so I have nieces and nephews and everything else. I'm seeing them being able to decipher better. It's kind of like old people when they get scammed, but then a young person looks at the scams like, dude, I know it's a scam. They can see it. It's like the chicken sexer theory. Have you seen that with Japanese kids? They're able to decipher whether it's a male or a female chicken just by looking at it after a simple about 45 to an hour. They can just start figuring it out. And then they can get it 100% of the time. So as kids are being exposed to this stuff, I think that they are going to transcend beyond it, and it's being instigated. And I don't think they're going to be able to trap these generations in these AI systems, but it's going to capture a lot of people. And so we have a bunch of fake videos, and this is a short segment. It's almost over, but they have a bunch of fake videos circulating. I know the White House responded and said that there's some fake videos going out of Biden, or they were trying to say that, the Russians were declaring AI, and some of these videos that we're seeing where he's stumbling or mumbling, it's not true, it's AI. So how do you see this thing playing out? Do you think people are going to start rejecting it? Do you think that, how do we counter this stuff? Because we can't, it's not going to go away. It's just like the microwave, eventually it's going to be in every household. But we got Rob Taylor on the line. We'll be right back. Yeah, so I'm just going to jump right into it here. All right, welcome back. We got to take these hard breaks because we got commercials. We got to pay the bills. Just so you know, KSLM has now moved their station.
It's time,
and they're doing some pretty massive upgrades.
And expose the lies. The occupied forces do not want you to hear this broadcast. Breaking through the censorship and delivering raw, unedited content, it's Joshua Michael with Non-Compliant America.
So we got to get in the weeds and pick Rob Taylor's brain, because we're blessed to have him here on the show. I love Rob Taylor. I think he's a treasure for this state. We're very fortunate to have him. He doesn't get into the weeds of the political pressures and BS. I personally believe that Rob Taylor just wants to do the right thing. He just wants to live in a coherent society and have everybody do what they say that they're going to do, and bring some transparency and bring some integrity back. And the only hope for that is the Republican Party and the independents. And, so I admire Rob Taylor a lot. He's been in this a lot longer than me. And so we're really blessed to have him on the show. So, Rob, we were talking about some of the AI things and systems. I know you were mentioning about getting censored on Facebook, but what else is on the radar with the AI for you?
Well, the AI is now going out there and not, and this is you were just talking about Biden and the videos they claim that are AI, and we really don't know if some of them are AI and if some of them are real, you know what I mean? And that's the discernment that people are going to have to learn, and I think we're going to get better at that. It's like the movie Blade Runner, when Harrison would come in and ask the question of the android to figure out if it actually is an android, and that's where children are going to go. They're going to pick up, humans are keen on learning things because they have to adapt. I mean, life is and survival is based on adaptability, not sustainability. Sustainability is what the government tries to lure you in with making you dependent. You have to be adaptable. Life changes, government changes, everything changes. In fact, change is the only constant in the world. And so kids will grow up realizing what is BS and what is not BS because they've lived in a world that can now be artificial. There's a virtual world out there. Ted Nugent calls it the anti-intelligence. It's anti-intelligence. And I like that phrase because it's the more they use it, the more people are going to be keen to figuring out what is real and what isn't real. But right now, there is someone out there who is targeting people like you, people like me, people who are high up in the Patriot movement who have their own podcasts. Ann Vandersteel is a good example of it. Ted Nugent's wife is a good example of it. People who are high up, who have their own podcast, who are now being targeted by people who are using AI to fake their voices and to create events and ask for donations from their listeners and be able to trick their listeners into thinking that this AI program that's being put out there is something that it's really not. And it was such a concerning alarm that I was on the phone with 38 of some of the top podcasters for the right side, and they were all talking their concerns about it. So it is a huge concern because when you're looking at this stuff on a computer, how do you know that if I see Joshua Michaels is promoting, love for puppies, please give to Joshua Michaels. And then they show a picture of you or a video of you and you're asking for donations in your voice. How am I to know that that's really you or if it's not you? You know what I mean, Josh?
I absolutely agree. And I think that is part of the plan. Again, the information overload, the distortion of reality. If they're able to distort things, nobody's going into real life scenarios as much. People are watching concerts from their phone. People are watching all of these things. So the entire culture, because of COVID and because of this momentum to digitalize everything, it's getting to a point where they want you there. Understand, check this out. Think about this, right? The destruction of the family. What's the sheer purpose of the destruction of the family, right? The divorce rate, all this stuff. To disconnect the human connection, to disconnect the mom from the dad, to disconnect from the dad from the son and the dad from the daughter and the mom from the son and the mom from the daughter, and disconnect that connection because there's nothing more fundamental and wholesome than the human life and that interconnection between families. So how do they break up the families? But check this out.
And that's exactly, Josh, that's exactly what an abusive boyfriend does to his girlfriend. The 100%. First thing an abusive boyfriend.
Right.
Yep.
And they're surgically, quietly, softly over a decade, slowly, incrementally knocking away at different things, right? You got 8-year-olds now, 6-year-olds, 5-year-olds. You go to the dinner table and there's the kids sitting there. They all have iPods and headphones on. They are completely disconnected from what's going on in the family. It is unbelievable. So how do we destroy that? And why are they destroying it? That's the better question. The real reason why they're destroying the family is because that is the one thing that can override all of the technology, all of the censorship, all of the systems, is that wholesome, normal conversation at the dinner table. They want to destroy that and undermine it and subvert it. So think about this. How stupid are we that we decide, hey, I'm going to start doing all my communication through text messages? Well, guess what? There's 3 people in that party. You, the person you're talking to, and the NSA, the cell phone company, the tech company, everything else. So now we are now giving them permission to be the moderator for our conversations. And mark my words, folks, what's happening and what's going to go on in the future is soon, beyond social media, there's going to be real-time censorship happening within your phone, where they're going to be hacking your phone, keeping you from speaking, keeping you from calling somebody, keeping certain phrases from happening. Because imagine this, we're at a level with technology now, the AI can run a 5-second buffer. They can then regurgitate your words and then spit out on the other end whatever they want. Think about this. That's very possible. And now you could essentially be having a conversation with a robot, not even being able to discern if that is the person you're actually talking to on the other end. And they could run a buffer in that, do real-time censorship. They can block links. They could do all of these things. They could hack into your phone. They could put things on your phone to make it seem like it's yours, to set you up in the future. And how are you going to be able to distinguish that? Most people aren't technologically savvy enough to do forensics audits on their cell phones to see what IP addresses are pinging it, what locations, what applications. Yeah, they put it in there like, oh, you want to be private, you can have privacy, you can do this. That's all BS, folks. You don't have privacy control. You give that up in all of the terms, conditions. Best documentary I would ever have anybody watch in regards to censorship and what these tech agencies are doing is called Terms and Conditions May Apply. And this is back in like 2012, I think, or 13 that it was put out. This is during the Snowden times and the things that he exposed with the illegal spying and everything else. But it shows how we are accepting the overreach in the name of convenience. And that's the slippery slope we're getting in with technology. But I would expect that the public would have a much larger rejection to companies like Facebook and, you know, I don't even know what the other social medias are that are. I'm only on X, folks. I'm on X and I got Rumble. I don't play in part of all these other things, but there should be a massive rejection to it. There should be a rejection within the businesses and everything else. But they almost feel like they have our number, and so they're just playing the long game, knowing eventually they will come back, you know? And, I mean, what do you think?
Well, you know, you have a cell phone, and you're talking about the social media platforms, which I know just from my experience, they're already manipulating that. But with a cell phone, you may not even be part of any social media. You may not be, you know how we have Telegram now, you know how you have Signal, which is run mostly through the cell phone. But even if you don't have any of those things, you have very limited apps on there. How do we know the cell phone company itself isn't allowing access to the government? And we do know they're allowing this. They've already admitted this.
They absolutely do. You can turn your locations off. You can turn your phone off. But notice how they got rid of being able to take the battery out, right?
Yep.
On all the new phones, you can't take the battery out. Guess what? Even when your phone is dead, there's still an extra backup reserve battery. They can ping your phone. They have the technologies to do it. And it's not just the cell phone. There's so many other embedded gadgets and devices and everything else. There's a reason they're putting 5G everywhere. There's a reason. Oh, the car is a big one. That's a giant one. Oh, actually, you know what? I'm going to see if I can pull up. I have one of those. I got the terms and conditions from my car. And I'm going to read the terms and conditions on the other side to show you how they're sneaking this stuff in. I took screenshots of it because it's amazing. But more importantly, contractually, they have to tell you. They have to notify you with what they're doing. They have to put it in there legally, and they're slipping it in through the terms and conditions. It's really interesting. We're talking with Rob Taylor. Rob, when's your next show coming up?
My next show is Monday, and it's going to be a good one. I got Dr. Bob Zybach coming on, and we're going to be talking about the Elliott Forest. I don't know if your listeners are familiar with the Elliott Forest, but it's a state forest, and
yeah, stay
that's
tuned.
what we'll be discussing.
Nice. Stay tuned. We got Rob Taylor on. We'll be right back.
I know it's rude to be bragging. They never catching us lacking. Me and my buddy, we working hard for this money.
Drop. Now when I like graffiti, my name was Slop. If I rap, shoot my beats and stop.
All right, welcome back, folks, to the Sunday special on the 4th of July weekend. I'm your host, Joshua Michael. You're listening to Not Compliant America. Make sure, like, subscribe, guys. We need followers. We need to get this message out there. We're having a conversation with Rob Taylor right now, and we're talking about terms and conditions and how they're sneaking in these tracking infrastructures into monitoring you. And a lot of you say, well, I do nothing wrong. It's no big deal. Well, think about this. Think about this. Remember when it was wrong to not wear a mask? And they were justified on not putting you in the store, not servicing you, refusing service in the simple fact that you were not wearing a mask. Even though they were not, legal medical practitioners, they had no PPE certifications, they didn't have any of these things, but they were able to decide and tell you. But that was another example of the bureaucracies that we were talking about. It was those bureaucracies like the CDC, the World Health Organization, World Economic Forum, all these outside groups that are not, keep in mind, the UN is not a government. They're not bound to the governments of the countries, right? They're not bound to them. They're above them. And there's this new super administrative state that they're setting up because they can operate outside of the governments, and we're seeing that. We're seeing that happening. The World Health Organization, same type of thing. They are absorbing all of our medical infrastructures, the discretionary, jurisdictions, all of that stuff is all meant to be absorbed to where from one agency globally is able to tell you how you're going to live your life. And so that's by us incrementally adopting some of these things and accepting it. But imagine when you start saying no to this stuff when it just becomes ridiculous, such as carbon credits. When they start introducing carbon credits over to you, what are you going to do? You're going to be like, hey, that's bullcrap. I don't want to do that. Boom. Suddenly, you can't drive your car anymore. Suddenly, you can't use the bank. You can't buy meats. You can't go to the grocery store. Your kids can't go to this school because they don't have all their shots. These government-regulated shots, I think they're over 100 now as the requirements, which is unbelievable. If you're still vaccinating your kids, I suggest, my personal opinion, I wouldn't touch them with a fine-tooth comb. I don't believe in it. We see all the corruption. We see all the dysfunction. We see the mass profits. We see all of these things. It's not worth it. I'd rather risk something happening outside of that rather than risk whatever the effects are, because as long as they got indemnification and they have pure liability protection, I'm good. Okay, so let's get into this terms and conditions real quick, and then we'll wrap it up here with Rob Taylor. So this is from Ford, right? So Ford Pass is a platform that empowers you to rethink the way you travel. Rethink the way you travel, which means don't travel. So we're going to rethink the way that you travel. You don't get to travel. That's the way we're going to rethink it. They're continually working on to improve and expand the Ford Pass programs, features, functionalities. These terms describe the programs that are currently available as well as the features planned for the future. It's always about the future. It's better for you. Before we get started, we want you to know how Ford Pass works, and we need you to click accept our terms, and please review carefully. There's their out. Well, we told you, you accepted it. But you want to use these features, then you have to accept it. Ford Pass relies on data from you, your computer, or mobile device, and from your vehicle, such as vehicle location, driving data, if your vehicle is equipped with connectivity features, technology, and associated with your Ford Pass account. This is so we can deliver you great functionality and services, as well as communications, tailored to your interests. Now, what does that have to do with me getting in my car and driving across the street? They're going to be looking out for my interest of things that I'm interested into. No, they're selling that data. And they're selling the data to third-party corporations and companies. But not only that, they have government-embedded systems to where eventually you'll start seeing the government, just like Minority Report, they'll scan you and then they'll shut off your car. And in this case, it'll be, hey, they can either sense that you've been vaccinated because they have Bluetooth sensors that, might be able to resonate of your serial number now if you have the COVID shot inside of you. And they'll say, oh, yeah, mister, you can't drive, right? It's the mark of the beast. It's the future. Rob, what do you think about all this?
I think it's going to be exactly what you just said. We are heading in a time where they are going to control the washer machine, the dishwasher, the refrigerator, everything in your house, just like you referred to Agenda 2021, 2030. That's how they're going to implement a lot of these things, because you can't take authority over something unless you take the authority over all of the basic machines that we use to make life better for us, and it's going to make it so that we are in a virtual prison. And just like you said, they're going to have those 15-minute cities, and people who rebel and buy their own cars, they're going to be controlled.
Right. And, there's talk, Christy Hutcherson was on last week talking about these internment camps that they're building in all 50 states in conjunction with political dissidents, not the illegal aliens, not the FEMA camps, everything else. These are specially designed complexes. She's shown the floor maps, everything else, so they know what's coming. And that goes back to with CNN unwinding and the things in turmoil and things going on with Biden. Now, granted, not everything's a foregone conclusion. These people aren't all-seeing, have all the power. They're controlling everything. There's nothing we can do. There absolutely is something that we can do, and the best thing is the peaceful non-compliance, listening to the show, sharing this show, having conversations, getting people to break out of these mindsets and matrices. But Rob, there's this one little thing. I wish we had video because I'd show this to you. Anybody that's listening, do this one thing. It's super interesting. If you go on Google and you go to images and you type in 2025, you see images, Armageddon, Lockdown 2025, Zeitgeist 2025, the end of the world, all this stuff. Then if you go 2026, right? You go on 2026 and you look at the images and everything else. And then you go to 2027, and this is super interesting, right? The earth is on fire, apocalypse 2027. The world is burning down. Right? And then you go to 2028. Why are these images populating in that sense? Right? There's 2028. There is a handshake between the devil and Jesus. Right? Comes right on Google. Upside down American flag 2028. Right? What does that mean? What does that simplify? You can see the tea leaves. Look, 2029, an asteroid's coming. It's going to destroy the earth. Right? Then you go to 2030. This is super interesting. And now you have Agenda 2030 that's being paved out. You have these super mega cities, these 5-minute cities. It's all futurist, utopia, 2030 agenda, all this stuff. It's so interesting because anybody can decipher this stuff if you look. Anybody can see what they're doing. And if you're aware of it, that's the thing that makes them, and it makes it very, very hard for them to implement. And we're seeing that right now with them trying to unwind Joe Biden.
That was pretty impressive there, Joshua. I have never done that myself, and I just typed in the dates that you said, 25 through 2030. And as you were describing it, that's exactly what came up. And it's weird. 2030 looks like that futuristic utopia that the communists, the globalists keep talking about. You will own nothing. You will be happy. Why? Because we're going to provide it for you.
Right. And they're going to tax you out of all of your savings. They're going to destroy your currency. We know that the petrodollar was just decimated. I believe in June 9th was the date that the Saudis didn't renew the petrodollar affair. And so last words, Rob, what do you got?
Well, I hope people pay attention. The big thing I'm fighting now are the windmills off the coast. I'm having a windmill protest on July 13th at the Coos Bay Boardwalk. And so I hope people join me, and you can find out more at robtaylorreport.com.
Thanks very much, Rob. Pleasure having you. And as my all active listeners, make sure to like and subscribe at noncompliantamerica.com. And everybody stay frosty out there because things are going to get interesting. Thank you for listening and have a great week.